Yeah, it really is, and I know that sounds funny, but you're at a point in the season where you have to win one to get to the next one if you want to stay in that race. And so if we wouldn't have played well and beat Kansas, then that would have been a big game. But you have to continue to move forward, and this will be a new challenge for us. This is a very talented football team and playing on the road. So we've got our work cut out for us. We've been consistent up to this point defensively. We need to improve our consistency on offense. We've gotten better, but we have to continue to improve. And I think that we've improved in our kicking game. With the exception last week, we had a couple young guys in there that got pushed around on one of the returns. But for the most part, our coverage has been good. And we have to have a good week of practice. You know, when you play in games that are of this magnitude, and especially on the road, it's important to take care of the football, and you have to find a way to win 2 of the 3 phases and give yourself the best chance to win.
Are you concerned at all, Mike, that about the struggles running against Kansas, or because you knew that's one thing Kansas has tried to do is take away inside running, that there's no worry about momentum going forward?
Most time coaches watch tape and always find areas that concern us. You know, it's interesting. The game's never as good as you thought it was, and it's never as bad as we think it is. Kansas committed to stopping the run, and you know, if we had to do it all over again, we probably would have just thrown more passes down the field. But it really, the flow of the game didn't direct us that way. But we need to improve in run blocking. We need to improve in our ability to run the football, and which helps us throw it. It's been the same formula for us for a number of years.
You've got a lot of guys on your team from Texas and who have looked at that program as the gold standard. Just, is there anything to going there that you need to realize that they don't get caught up in the mystique? This is just another game.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned with that. We've had success there. A number of guys on this team that have competed in big games. They've played against ranked opponents and big bowl games, and the outside television and everything involved. So I think they'll be fine in that area.
What do you think about the battle in the trenches this weekend? Texas has a strong pass rush, and then on the other side, a good downhill running game.
Well, Texas is as good as anybody in this league, arguably probably the best in this league up front on both sides of the ball. And they cause a lot of issues in their ability to rush the passer. And they have a good running game. They're blocking, and they get downhill and run the football effectively.
You feel the trajectory of the team and how it's improving is where it needs to be as you head into the last 3 games of the year?
Well, we don't have a choice. You kind of wherever you are is where you are. I don't think there's any question that we're a much better football team than we were a month and a half ago. So that's a credit to the players. They've made a decision to work hard and come together and improve, and they have. So I like our leadership. I like the maturity of our team right now. I like their chemistry.
I think you're built more for this game against Texas, the guys up front on defense, maybe than you have been in a while playing down there?
Well, I think that we're better up front and essentially overall on defense than we have been since I've been the head coach here. This team brings a different style to the plate, to the table. I think they're going to try to pound on us and run downhill, and I'd say that's justified in their ability to do that. Their back's a good runner. I guess they must have lost the other one, but this one they have is a good player. And they have a lot of speed. They're going to hand the ball off and flip it to those guys and let them run around the corner and try to outrun everybody. They've done that for a number of years. So it's a great challenge for us, and you have to be in the right spot. You got to make sure that you're gap responsible, and you got to get guys down and tackle them in space.
You've had teams, Mike, in fact, the way you've been playing lately, you could argue that you're in the same boat, but they haven't lost a conference game when everyone was kind of writing them off early, or a lot of people were. Their belief now that they can win, how much more dangerous does that make a team?
Texas? Well, I think confidence is a big part of what we do, all of us in sports and life, and not only as a team but as individuals, and you have to give them credit. We don't get caught up in much, but it became a big story a month ago or 6 weeks ago, and there was a lot going on, and Coach Brown has done a great job of handling it and keeping his team focused. Obviously, they've won a bunch of games since there was a lot of talk, and the players have responded. So, it kind of adds to the fun part of college football for everybody other than the coaches. It makes for a heck of a game.
Mike, nowadays we tend to want to label teams early in the season as this or that, but the fact that it is, you kind of already alluded to this, is there's going to be coaching going on, there's going to be different guys stepping into different roles, and there's opportunities for teams to really improve this season. It looks like that's going on too.
We're getting better, and we've talked about this before. They shouldn't put a poll out until October 1. It doesn't do much for magazines and internet sites and selling and making money, but it's hard to really tell the direction that most teams are going to go, with the exception of over the last 4, 5, 6 years, there's been 5 or 6 teams that were what I would call dominant college football teams each year. And then there's been a group of 25 or 30 that could probably anybody win on any given day. And I think that's probably true this year. You're seeing a group that's really dominant, and then some other teams that are improving. A lot of that has to do with health. If you get the wrong players injured with certain teams, it makes it very difficult to win. Some teams can overcome more injuries than others. And then ultimately it comes down to turnovers and quarterback play is really what factors in. And, as I was talking with John, Texas has improved considerably in the last month. Oklahoma State's gotten better. Our defense has been fairly consistent. Our offense has gone from not very good, below average, to just, between average and good right now. And we need to be able to play good this weekend to give ourselves a chance to win.
You mentioned last night that the chemistry has really come together over the past 6 weeks. When did you kind of see that start to happen?
Well, I think the biggest contributor there is winning. There was a lot of shock, not really amongst the team, but in people when we lost at West Virginia. And so that can have an effect on your team, whether you like it or not, from a perception standpoint, with them being in public. And over the last 3 weeks or so, I think they've learned to kind of rally and play together. And as we've improved on offense and started to play with the defense in games and work together as a unit, the team's kind of grown together. But this has been a fun group to coach. There's certainly never subs. It's hard to take the place of when you've got a bunch of NFL players out there and, you just kind of show up and make sure everybody's happy and get them to play hard. But these guys have learned to play together and support each other, and they're playing unselfish. You'll see a number of defensive guys that are playing a role in the game, and they're helping our team in their role. And you see offensive players that, particularly receivers, that may not get as many catches, that are really playing hard and blocking down the field, and running backs that are blocking for each other. And so that's helping our team grow together 3 or 4 weeks ago, somewhere in that time.
Mike, you see any comparison between quarterbacks? 2 guys made the backup at the beginning of the year that gotten their opportunity, and their teams have really begun to rally around them.
Yeah, I think it's a fair comparison with those guys. I don't know McCoy, but seems to be a good kid. He comes from an athletic background. Same thing with our guy, and handles himself the right way. His demeanor's been good. That's what it looks like to me. So there's a lot of similarities between those 2 players.
You mentioned injuries. You guys have been able to overcome some injuries on defense and lost Josh and plugged other guys in. Just talk about the depth of and how important that is.
We've been fortunate that we've had, when we've had injuries, we've had some maturity and experience to put in the game. We were somewhat vulnerable early in the year on the offensive line from an experience standpoint with injuries. We've been fortunate. We've been healthy over the last month at that position. We've had some receivers that are out, but the guys that are playing behind them have some experience. And then we've been in the same situation on defense. that allows us to keep our game plan and not become so vanilla like we've had to in the past when a player got hurt and you had to put one in that's never played. So we've been fortunate that we've had some, but not at positions that really set our team back.
Do you expect Josh to be able to practice at all this week?
We're going to try to get him out there Wednesday.
Mike, do you have any new wrinkles for the rest of the season? Are you a proponent of putting things in, new things in this late in the year?
Oh, I think you always have to be open to ideas, but I think there's also a core and basic principles that your team has become, and if you leave it too much, you make yourself vulnerable to situations that you're not comfortable with. So I would say the answer to that would be you look and see what's out there, and then you base it on your personnel and then the team you're playing. And if you think there's some opportunities, you take the chance. If not, my history has been you're better off at just running your own plays.
Is there very many plays that you have in the playbook that you haven't used this year?
A number of them. We've been pretty vanilla.
Yeah.
Compared to what we've been over the last few years, and that happens when you're in tight games, and if your defense is playing good, you tend to not open up as much and try to be smart, or we do in how we coach and approach the game.
Said you don't think it'd be a problem, guys playing down there in Texas, but it's. Do you sense a lot of those guys from Texas circle this one? It's got to be a big game for them.
Well, I think they're all big, but there's no question they like to play down there. Their family can get there. They have friends there. I'm guessing, we have 71 guys from down there. And I would guess that they know people that go to school there, and they'll probably be at the game. And they've always enjoyed playing down there, and they've enjoyed playing Texas.
And Mike, in this series especially, you've been almost every week, you've been quick to note how important your special teams have been to your team's success. But in this series in particular, in fact, I think the last time you were in Austin, if I'm not mistaken, there were back-to-back kickoff returns for touchdowns. Special teams have been huge in this matchup with Texas. Talk about that.
They've always been big in this game, and Texas has been good in returns for a number of years. They've always had a couple guys in their return game that were won the 100 meters in high school in Texas, and they're really fast, and so that makes you a pretty good return team right from the start. And Coach Brown seems, when you watch them, it looks like they spend time on it and they work on it. And we do the same. We try to put a lot into our special teams and to try to win the kicking game. And as I mentioned earlier, somehow you got to win 2 of the 3 phases. You got offense, defense, and kicking game, and if you win 2 of the 3, then you got a chance to win the football game.
What's going to be the key to slowing down that effective Texas pass rush?
Well, you got to be balanced. I think if they know you're throwing it, you're in a world of hurt. And just watching them specifically the last 3 games, teams that have run the ball somewhat have slowed them down a little bit. They're going to get you some. When you've got guys that are rushing the quarterback that have the ability that they have, they're going to get to you at times. I mean, you're not going to – I don't know that you're just going to sit back there and run your offense and they're not going to get negative yardage plays and get some sacks. I think they had 7 of them in the last game. So you deal with it, you handle it the best way possible, and you stay balanced on offense.
Charlie Moore's given cornerbacks fits in a couple of games this series. There's been a couple of times when there were consecutive pass interference calls on the opposing defender, and he told us he's going to get into film right afterwards. He downloads it on his iPad. Is he kind of a role player on the field and in the locker room? What's he like?
Yeah, Charlie's been around here for a long time, and he's a great leader, works hard. He plays unselfish, deceivingly fast. He's got a lot of experience, and he can win against tight coverage now where he couldn't 2 years ago just because of his experience. And you never have enough guys like him on your team. You know, he's like Caleb Levy, he's like Sean Lewis, you know, Cooper Bassett and Ryan Robinson, guys that we've had around here a long time that you know, they love Oklahoma State football and they're great team players, and they do a lot for your organization. And, you know, he starts and makes a lot of plays, and he's not as flashy as what some other guys are in this league, but when the ball's going the other way, he blocks. I mean, he's not ever going to take a play off, and he's representative of kind of what our goal is here, is, you know, to be unselfish and the other 10 players that don't have the ball to play really hard, and he does that every play.
You said he does better against tight coverage. Is that, I mean, you think that's more a matter of something he grabbed onto that the coaches were trying to show him, or experience mostly?
He's good versus all coverages, but he's benefited more in tight coverage over the last 2 years just because of his experience, and he's kind of learned how to play the game.
Like, is it any less risky? I mean, as a coach, do you feel any less risk now taking a deep shot down the field sometimes when you have, I guess, more man coverage than maybe this league has seen?
Well, we've seen a lot of it, you know, the last few weeks. You know, we saw it in Iowa, saw it in Texas, and saw it last Saturday. And so, you know, it becomes a numbers game. And Texas is doing the same thing. Texas is going to put one more guy in the box and play man. It's pretty simple. So you got to be able to throw the ball effectively down the field. And if not, then, you know, it's hard for 6 guys to block 7. It's hard for 5 guys to block 6. So you have to take advantage of whatever the other team gives you.
They've kind of done that too offensively with Davis, haven't they?
Right. They've been similar, and I think people have played them like that some. You know, they've got great skill on the perimeter, and so there's some risk involved there. But there's been teams that have approached the game from that point of view.
I think the last 4 winners of the series won on the road. What's been so tough about beating each other at home?
I don't know. I hope they don't find that out. It's unusual. You know, we went about 100 years before we ever won down there. Now, we didn't play them forever, but and then there's been games here where we should have won the game. If we'd have done a better job of coaches of managing the last 10 minutes of the game, we should have won 1 or 2 of those games when we hadn't. So it's been an unusual series from that standpoint.
Slow off the wall, but it came up with some of your players that they're actually kind of afraid of Bevo, the horns. They try to stay away from him. In all your trips down to Austin, have you almost had a run-in with Bevo before or seen anything?
No. Most time I see him, he's hanging out against that back wall, and it looks like they're trying to keep him awake, to be honest with you. But no, I haven't had any run-ins with him. All right. Thank you.